I'm spending a minute preceding this watercolor tutorial sharing with you the purchase of my disability scooter to take me out to the gardens to see more flowers and landscapes to paint and share with you.
Okay, the video is on and running.
I don't just want to paint more this year, I hope to move more and get fitter. This disability scooter will get me and my puppy Tess out to some lovely places to walk and sketch out in the open and perhaps bring those unfinished works back to the studio to finish off under the cameras and share with you and explain as I'm working. So feel welcome to ask questions. I'm always happy to answer them.
How's that?
That's good.
We're happy with that, aren't we, Ted? Right? How does it try to get a bit better? Yeah. Okay. Yep. Okay, here we go.
You can see the quality of this paintbrush. As I work, it retains the point. You can see whether I'm brushing it across the paper or doing circular motions with it. Doesn't matter how I hold this brush, it always bounces back into shape and retains that beautiful point. It's also full-bodied. It's got a swollen belly, for want of a better name, where it holds a lot of wash. Because it's a natural hair rather than a synthetic, that assists with the ability to retain the moisture. Because it's the tip of the sable's tail, you get that exquisite point and the spring to the hair. It bounces back if you apply pressure and redirect the shape of the brush. When you move it back, it bounces back into shape. So it is an exquisite brush. It's quite costly, but well worth the investment. I was well guided as a child, and I was advised to get quality brushes. They weren't given to me. I worked for them. I worked very hard to earn my first two brushes as a child. And I really put the fact that I went on to become a professional artist at an early age, really, to that good guidance. That nobody said to me, I'm a child, just get cheap brushes. I've never said to my students, you're a student, just get cheap brushes. I've always advised to get the best brush you can afford. Never mind get the best brush you can afford. Wait until you can afford it and then get the best brush. You really do need to have a quality brush. You can perhaps compromise on the quality of the paper. I have with this painting. I haven't used my favourite Fabriano. I've used the Bockingford paper, which is a lower cost paper that my students often used to buy. But I used to try to buy the high quality brushes in bulk, negotiate for a discount, and I'd pass that discount on to my students. So my students never had to pay full price but could have the very high quality brushes, same as I was using. I never suggested, because they were students, they should work with a lower quality. Now, I don't sell art supplies anymore, but in the description below there will be a link to my website, and in my website blog I will have links to a good value art supply store. And what I tend to do is put myself on a mailing list with art supply stores that supply the type of products that I'm interested in, and that way you're notified when they have sales come up. That's how I'm getting my pan pastels at the moment. I'm looking for when they come up on good 20%, even 30% discounts. Honesty is not the fastest way to grow a YouTube channel on art supplies. I'm not going to tell you that the cheap product will do just as good a job. I can't do a good job with student grade material. I can see the difference between using professional quality, and I have had 65 years as a professional artist of experience behind me. If I can't do it to the same standard with cheaper materials as I can with quality, then what hope has an amateur got? So If you want to paint like a professional, you're going to need professional materials. My suggestion, as I said, get yourself on a mailing list and look for discount quality products. The other way to save is to use fewer materials. I tear my hair in frustration sometimes when I see talented artists buy cheap product after cheap product. I have seen them buy something like half a dozen different brands of watercolors, never once buying a quality professional grade. Every time they'll just buy another cheap tin and hope that that will do the job. If they'd held out and just bought maybe 5 or even 7 tubes of professional quality paint, they could have been doing very high standard work a lot sooner. I really am interested in seeing you achieve success in your efforts as an artist, as a watercolorist. Watercolor can be quite scary, and the way to take the fear out of it is to learn the techniques, work with quality materials, choose good quality color harmonies, and there we are. I don't have a good quality color harmony in this painting. Take a look at it. It's pretty colors for sure, but look how many of them there are. We've got lemon yellow and bright yellow, almost bordering towards a orange yellow. So that's every particular hue of yellows there. And we've got red violets through to violet. We've got blue violets through to blues. We've got green through to yellow greens. And the grey, of course, is a natural luminous grey mixed with the colours that are in the painting. But we have too many colours in the painting. Now, I'm not going to worry about that at this stage because I intend to do this as a mixed medium. This will be a line and wash where the ink line goes on after the watercolour is done. But I also have access to my pan pastels where I can put almost like transparent washes over it. I can grey my colours by mixing colours together. Violet and yellow are opposites on the colour wheel, so they will grey each other out when I put them together. The red violet, if that's mixed with this green, that will grey itself out. I'll be mixing greys on the paper with combinations of colour. At the same time I'm putting these colour washes down on the paper, and the paper's dry by the way. Often I'll work onto a wet paper, but today I've chosen to work onto a dry paper. Now I've got to watch that this wash that goes on doesn't dry with hard edges because it's going a wet wash onto a dry paper. It could be very easy to get a hard unnatural edge. I chose to do it this way because I wanted to get the sharp, crisp outline on the edges of the pansies. In the foreground, my main focal point pansies, and I do need to have it softer behind. So if you're a beginner, you might find it easier to wet your paper behind, which will guarantee that when you put your brush stroke down, full of pigmented wash, that you don't get a hard edge. But I'm just simply watching carefully as I work, and if it starts to look, there you are, I brushed over it. If it starts to look like the edge is drying hard, I give it a brush over. Now remember, the wash that you're putting down now, when I come back to it later, this will have faded because watercolour always dries lighter when you put it down. Now, I mentioned before I have pan pastels. Now they can go on so thin that they're almost like a translucent wash, and that will be a backup tool that I've got that will allow me to soften edges even further in the background. It will also allow me to modify colours. I can modify them, as I said, by overpainting wash over a wash. If I do that, I've got to watch that I don't end up with a muddy mess. As I said, mud is the easiest to mix. I'm wanting to have lovely luminous greys. At the moment, these mixtures that are going down, the washes, they're producing lovely, slightly muted Colours, very, very subtle. Luminous greys starting to emerge from these mixes on the paper for the background. You can see where the light is glowing through behind the flowers, and you can also see more shadowy patches starting to develop. We're building up very gradually into these patterns of light and shade and leaving our foreground flowers where we're going to develop them in more focus towards the end. Always leave your detailing to the last. The difference between a professional and an amateur? A professional leaves the details till last. An amateur just itches to get in and tighten up at the start.